I'm going to call to order the Monday, November 24th meeting of the Environmental Action Committee. I'm Sarah Marsh. I represent the citizens of Ward 1 and am the chair of this committee. Let's start with introductions.
Joanna Pollock. I live in Ward 2. I'm a citizen at large, environmental dynamics student at the University of Arkansas.
I'm Dana Smith. I'm a citizen at large on this committee and also the sustainability coordinator for Fayetteville Public Schools.
And I'm Peter Nierengarten, the city's sustainability director, and I'm the staff representative to the Environmental Action Committee.
Mike Emery. I live in Ward 4, citizen at large, and I work at the University of Arkansas.
Angela Wisely, I'm a citizen in Ward 1, citizen at large, and work for Veridian.
Hi, Richard Russell, Ward 1, citizen at large, second time around on the committee.
Would our guests like to introduce yourselves?
Sure. I am Brian Teague. I am a Fayetteville citizen and urban designer, and my firm is Community by Design, a land planning firm here in town.
Thank you.
I'm Greg Mitchell. I'm the GIS coordinator for the city of Fayetteville.
All right. Thank you. And so next on our agenda is approval of the meeting agenda. Do we have any additions, substitutions, or comments on it? I would like to say I was supposed to give a report on my National League of Cities tour, and I just got back late last night. I've not really had time to process all that, so I'll give you an update at a meeting at some point in the future. Okay, well then I'm just going to assume that's consent to approve the meeting agenda. And let's jump right into old business, which is the promotion of our low-impact design map. Greg, you want to talk about, or Peter, do you want to start off?
Sure, I'll
Okay.
just start off and then turn it over to Greg. At the last meeting, we talked about several LID sites, low-impact development or low-impact design sites around the city, and have a list of those sites started with a fair bit of information associated with each of those sites. And in talking with some other city staff, I became aware of an initiative that Greg is working on to do a mapping project of public art in the community. And I saw his map and thought it was very impressive and thought that potentially it could be used to also showcase low-impact design sites as well. And so I wanted Greg to come in and tell us a little bit about what he's already done with art and see if you all thought it might be suitable for replicating for low-impact development. And ideally then we could take the list of sites that we have, add some photographs to them, and have Greg develop something similar for low-impact design.
Yeah.
So why don't you take it away?
Okay. I hit the light there. So this is the opening screen to this, what we're calling Fayetteville Art Walk. This is, see out in the upper right there, it says a story map. So that this is ESRI, is the company that makes our GIS software, and this is one of their products that they make available to us for free. And it's a template, basically. There's a few parameters we can change, but basically it's going to look like this. So you have the 3 panes, you have a map, you have a picture, and then you have the carousel across the bottom. And I mean, the beauty of it is that it's so easy to use. I mean, you can navigate on the map, you can click on something on the map, and it'll take you to the picture. You can have links to other websites. So that could be, an architect's website or whatever you chose there. And you can, navigate around the map. It doesn't specifically give, directions, but it has this is our kind of our standard base map that we've developed for use on our website. So there's a lot of information on this website, on the map. just by itself. Richard?
Can you find me a bench made out of natural wood materials?
This, I don't believe there's any in here of that. This really, what this program does not have is anything that you don't see. It's just designed to be simple, straightforward, and it runs on your phone or on a tablet. But there's there's not an index, there's not even a legend on the map. So it is, it's limited in that way. So there's really not a lot to explain. I pretty much showed you right now all the features that there are to it. You can't. One thing you can do is if you actually want to make a tour, like if you have a specific sequence that you could add a path onto the map. With this one, that wasn't really appropriate because they're so scattered. You're not. I kind of. You do give I did number them kind of starting at the square, but after a while that kind of breaks down because, there's not a right or a wrong way to, to look at these.
So when we talked last month about interest in LID, some of the features that we talked about having associated with a map for LID components were obviously a building or a site name, which I believe this Greg would definitely allow us to do, an address or location, which essentially the map gives you, a description of what the LID features are at the various site, which it looks like you have the ability to do kind of in this 1 or 2 sentence description over
Right.
here with a potential for a link.
Mm-hmm.
And whether it's on public or private property, which could also be indicated there, I think. And then the only thing we don't have associated with our sites thus far is a photograph, but I don't think that would be anything all that difficult for us to add to our database at this point. Are there other things that folks were thinking they wanted to see that you're not seeing here or have questions about could be included?
Is the text limit about that?
Well, the trouble is you can have longer text, but it covers up the picture.
I understand.
And on a phone or a tablet, it becomes more of a problem. They do these story maps. They have different templates, and they have a different template where really you have pretty much a whole panel of text. So if in general you want to be able to have several paragraphs of text, then we need to look for a different format. This one's designed really just to have a caption.
Okay. Where will this website live? Is it a link on the City of Fayetteville website, or is it connected to the city's GIS maps? I know that that's the base map, but like if you went to the interactive maps.
We'll probably, this is still in beta, so right now this doesn't have any links, but we'll probably end up with several links. We'll have one off the GIS page link, but maybe off of planning, or I'm not sure at this
Maybe
point.
with
but you could
there's an
certainly
arts
have
council that the city has.
Okay.
theoretically
Ultimately,
a link.
once it's done, though, you can link it from anywhere?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So that would be something, we would have the ability, I think, to link from the Environmental Action Committee page. You could link from
Absolutely.
the engineering page that has information about the city's LID manual and stormwater requirements. There might be 2 or 3 other potential sections of the city's website that, as well as, external websites that could link to it.
Is there any type of print function for anyone who maybe goes to this website and they want to go explore a few sites, but they maybe don't have a smartphone on them?
There's not a built-in one. I guess you can always print a web page
You could do like a print screen.
Yeah, like a print screen. Let's see.
You can do a grab, can't you, and you want to save the whole page? Do a grab, they call it on
Right,
a Mac,
yeah.
and
And
copy
it-
and paste it in on wherever you want.
Right. The program itself does not have a print function.
Right, so-
You said it was compatible with phones and tablets. Would it have like a GPS function? Say like they're out and about and just want to see what might be near to them at that time?
You know, that's a good question. Does someone have a phone they could try it on?
Yeah.
Go to that site up there.
Well, I've got a shorter version, I can tell you. It's HTTP bit.ly, bit.ly/11, and then lowercase z, k, uppercase N, as in Nancy, and then lowercase z, and the numeral 3. Try that.
I'd be amazed if I got that the first time.
Because the web page is not available.
Oh, really?
Maybe I did it wrong.
Bitly is B-I-T-L-Y?
bit.ly.
Ah, that's where I messed up, okay.
So I've got it loading.
See what it does here as I change it? It will show you what it will look like on that shaped screen. And actually, I haven't really messed with this on the phone, but see, on this small screen, it doesn't. You get one. You don't get all three windows at once, but
That's neat.
I don't see, at least on mine, I'm not seeing a GPS function.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't see
yeah,
it either.
I probably just not then.
It'd be a nice thing to add to it, though, if you could.
It would. And they do, I mean, one of the reasons I can offer this is because it's we just configure it.
Right.
We don't do any programming on
Okay.
it. So I'm not going to offer that, but it is possible it may be something that they're working on.
Okay.
Who's been, Greg, just out of curiosity, who's been compiling the art sites that you've got in here right now?
The committee, there's a public art committee. I don't know if that's
The Arts Council?
Arts, no, it's not the Arts Council. I know Leaf worked with them. I'm not sure the name of the committee, but Leaf gave me a list that they had come up with.
Okay.
And then some of them, and then me, I added some to it that are more recent. And all these storm drains, I contacted the Upstream Art Council, and they
Right.
gave me all these photos. So it's, been a collaborative effort.
I would add that the yellow hot links are really hard to read on a phone.
Oh, are they?
Yeah.
Okay, I tried blue, and they were really hard to read on here. I'll have to try something different. Okay, thank you.
All right, well, what do you guys think? Does this look like something we can
Yeah.
use?
I like it a
Yeah.
lot.
Yeah, I think so too. It would be great if we could find maybe an add-on for a GPS function, but even without that, I think it's still really helpful.
Yeah.
I think the other, which Richard was kind of asking about, is that search function. If somebody wanted to look at where are the rain gardens.
I was
In the
teasing Greg
communities.
because he makes benches out of natural wood.
Well, I was
Couldn't imagine that he didn't have at least one.
one in there.
That's a good question, though. So it does not have like
Doesn't have a search.
if you wanted to,
There's no kind of search.
if I wanted to search here for storm drain art, you just have to move the pointer around.
Yeah.
Well, or you can go through the
Yeah,
index.
you can scroll these, and when you
Mhm.
when you find one you want to look at, then you click on it, and it'll highlight where it is for you.
Of course, if we're doing attaboys for LID developments, you know, our search function might be something totally different. One thought we were having was, you know, you congratulate people and give them some screen space because they did some LID development, low impact development. And then the other angle on it would be if you want to find places where this took place. It's where we were talking signs at first, but this is, to me, way superior, more accessible to most folks to see where everything is.
This would be neat, even for what you're using it for now, if you could search by sculptures and search by storm drains and search by traffic boxes.
Well,
In case someone's looking for something particular.
one of the functions they have is you can change the colors of the markers, but there's no legend, you know, so unless it's really obvious, you know. In fact, I did that when I started. I thought, oh, I'll make all the storm drains blue, you know, and
Run out of colors after a while.
yeah, and it wasn't apparent what they meant. It just really didn't help.
I mean, I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal to not be able to search for what's a rain garden and what's the bioswale. I think just seeing it on the map and having this running list of it, I think is really a helpful tool.
Yeah, I do too.
I guess if somebody was in a certain area and they can zoom in on the map and they can just see what's near them, if they knew where they were, you know, then they
And
could.
with good photographs, you can, you know, scroll fairly quickly through the photographs
Find
and
what you're looking for.
be able to tell, I think, the difference in a rain garden and a rain barrel
Yeah, and a lot of
very
it,
easily from a photograph.
you know, on some of the larger projects, they'll have a website. I mean, like, you know, Eco Modern has a website that you can just link through that and then see all about it. So I think this is a really great tool. As far as the time intensity of developing something like this, does this take a lot of your time?
If you give me the photos and addresses, no. I mean, in probably a day, we could have this up and running.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the beauty of it.
That's wonderful.
And then how difficult is it to make edits or additions if new things become?
It's not hard. It is if Peter sends me, you know, 2 new addresses and 2 new photos, it might take an hour,
Okay,
but it's something that could be done routinely.
okay.
Okay, well, is this the technology we want to use? And if so, can I get a motion?
I'll make a motion that we adopt this technology.
Okay, thank you, Joanna. Can I get a
Second.
Second, okay. Any further discussion? All right, all in favor? Aye.
I,
Any opposed? Okay, great. We have a fantastic way to do this. Now, in order to make this successful, we have to get the photos and the information and locations to Peter. So,
I have a list of 12 sites started right now. I will tomorrow send out this list to you all so you can see what's on it already, with a assignment for 2 more sites and photos in person. And if you can get those to me, then we'll have a pretty good, you know, we'll have 20 to 25 sites to start with, and then we can hand those over to Greg.
Okay. And
Greg,
if you have,
excuse me.
if you have hot links, if you have developers, or, you know, I need the
Okay.
I need the captions and the title.
Right,
So I need caption, title, picture,
link.
location, and link.
Yep.
So your location is a physical address?
An address, yeah.
For the photos, do you want us to send photos, or is there a way to have someone else take higher quality, better pictures?
The developers might have good photos. I mean, that's up to you.
It looked like a couple of your photos were like Fayetteville Flyer. Is that one that you?
Yeah, I've grabbed some from the flyer. I've gone out and taken some myself.
How good do they need to be? Because I know, like, when I email stuff to people, you know, on my phone, it gives me a choice of good, better, best, whatever name
File
you use.
size.
They're
minimum
kind of,
file size.
the maximum I'm using is 1,200 across. They're like 1,200 by 900 or something. They don't need to be any bigger than that. And some of these flyer ones they're like more like 8 by 6, 800 by 600, and they're fine
Do
too.
you know how many meg, how big the file is?
Oh. Probably maybe 5 meg or something.
Okay, so you can, that won't slow things down if it's
No,
that big?
no, they're pretty quick.
Okay.
I've been watching this one take shape. Is it finished?
I think this one's been finished for a while. Yeah.
Have you sent out the 12, Peter, that you have?
I'll send it out again tomorrow.
Okay.
Do we have a target window when we're wanting to go live with it? 'Cause you said it was in beta right now, right?
This one, actually, I've been working on this one just today, and as far as I'm concerned, well, except for, I'm not sure what to do with the U of A, but that's the only blank I've got right now. I'm gonna kind of send it out and see if any, I've done this once, but see if there's any pieces that I've missed or get more suggestions. And in fact, feel free, if you see anything you think, well, why don't you have the so-and-so, you could tell me right now. But it's pretty close. As far as, the getting it on the website, they're in the middle of redesigning the website, and so I haven't talked to, Dee Dee about how they want to roll it out, so.
Yeah, the city is in the process of upgrading to a new content management system, and that's going to change a lot. So I think that we've got some time.
Yeah, we could certainly put it together and have it ready and with a link like on the Environmental Action Committee's page in the interim. But for a more robust presence on the city's website, that's probably going to be for more of a February, March timeframe when the new website is rolled out.
All right.
Okay, so there's not a certain registry, like Dee Dee's not keeping up with people who asked to do one or said they have a design for one or anything?
Designed for one what?
For one, a special project like painting those storm drains and covers and things.
The Storm Drain Art is a project that's managed through the University of Arkansas Agriculture Extension Office.
Oh, all of them are.
Yeah, and they manage the public, a portion of the public education that goes along with the MS4 permit that the 4 cities and the university hold for stormwater compliance, and so they do that art, this upstream art project as part of that public education piece. We're looking at doing 4 more storm drains around the University of Arkansas with this spring's round of storm drain art projects.
That reminds me of the question, is there a way for the public or even ourselves after the fact to communicate additional projects besides emailing you? If a citizen just wants to contribute a project either for art or for low impact development?
Yeah, I'd say probably myself or Greg would need to be the gateway for getting a new site added.
You could just put a simple email link on the page to do that, say, found some art you want added, submit it here.
Yeah, could probably do that.
Maybe even a submission form, so you
Or something to
get
that
all the
effect.
required fields.
All right. Well, I'm excited that we have this figured out. So are we ready to move on? To new business. Thank you, Greg, for
You're welcome.
taking the time to come
Yeah.
to us.
Thank you.
That's great. Okay, so next on our agenda is the Willow Bend LID, presented to us by Brian Teague of Community by Design.
I'm Brian Teague with Community by Design. I have civil engineering background and training, but I'd probably rather introduce myself as a self-educated urban designer.
Hopefully not, no offense to the civil engineers in the room.
None taken.
Let's see, view full screen. So, Peter asked me to come present the Willow Bend project to you guys, and I asked him, you know, if I could present more than that and kind of present more than just the LID aspects of Willow Bend and just talk about the big picture. I'm also a board member on the Beaver Watershed Alliance, and last month I gave a presentation to the Beaver Lake Watershed Symposium on water quality in Beaver Lake and what kind of correlating that with the forecasted growth that's potentially coming in the watershed and to the region. And so what I've tried to do is incorporate that presentation in with this one, because I think they are related. So what I wanted to do is just give you all a real quick, brief overview of the Willow Bend project, and then talk about some sustainability, some of our sustainability goals, and then get into the Beaver Lake stuff, and then go back to Willow Bend and talk specifically about LID. That's okay. Peter told me I had 30 minutes, so I didn't figure anybody would want to listen to me for 30 minutes. Hopefully I can get through it that quickly. Just a second. So, I guess the city and NCAT, the Partners for Better Housing, they're the group, the organization that owns the property and that's developing Willow Bend. They applied for a Sustainable Cities Institute Pilot City Program grant 3 or 4 years ago. And this work that we did was a part of that grant. And there was also a trail extension from Frisco Trail over to Walker Park, which I think has already been built, which is a part of this grant. And then also the creation of the low impact development manual was a part of the grant. And then our work, the planning and design of the Willow Bend project. But the mission statement that the group kind of came up with at that time was to create a replicable model of sustainable and attainable housing. Some of the city plan and Walker Park neighborhood goals that guided us in the design process, you look at, we'll make appropriate infill and revitalization our highest priorities, discourage suburban sprawl, encourage traditional town form, assemble an enduring green network, and create opportunities for attainable housing. The Walker Park goals included a balance of uses and housing, connectivity and walkability, and creating accessible green space. So there, in addition to the goals of just the Willow Bend project and the Partners for Better Housing, there's a lot of goals that as a designer that I'm trying to balance as we worked on the Willow Bend project. Like I said, it's an attempt to create a replicable model of sustainable place that incorporates the aspects of health, safety, environmental stewardship, economic vitality, and neighborhood sociability. The plan calls for 84 homes on 10 wooded acres located within a 15-minute walk of the square. The homes are planned to be a mixture of both affordable and market-rate housing, including 38 single-family detached houses, 24 detached cottages, and 22 single-family attached townhomes. So 84 units on 10 acres, about just a little over 8 units per acre.
What's the definition of a cottage?
A cottage,
As opposed to a house?
it's specific. It's a zoning. How should I say this? It's a permitted use in the city's Unified Development Ordinance that allows you to build homes without street frontage, and there's some stipulations that include, the square footage can't exceed 900 square feet, so they're pretty small.
And they would have common parking area or something like that.
Yeah, right. Or some of them might have their own, but either way. So this gives you a little bit of the neighborhood context. Let's see. This is MLK, and then Walker Park over here. So Walker Park, Jefferson Elementary, Senior Center, Head Start, all within a 5-minute walk of Little Bend. And then the trail connection will provide access to downtown with the town square, the U of A, Industrial Park, and a lot of other places, all really close by. I guess the trail connection comes to here somewhere, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then we were planning to extend that even further on down into the project. There's a street here, but then this will be a trail. So just real quickly, these are some of the illustrations that we were able to do. Just flip through these real quick and try to give you an idea of what the project might feel like. This is from 7th Street, about 1,000 feet up, looking down on the project, looking south. This is Pinwell Square, which is a part of the project, kind of a traffic calming device. This is the boardwalk and the shallow marsh that we were able to incorporate into the project. The cottages facing onto smaller homes, cottages facing onto the boardwalk and the shallow marsh.
Wow.
The central green.
There's a garden. Sorry.
With,
Got excited.
We may have to turn that into a rain garden, which would be just as good, I suppose. And this is our entrance from Washington Avenue. More central green and cottage court. More cottages facing onto that common green at the top of the screen. Our little civic mail building, you see there on the right.
Mm-hmm.
The view from the front porch. Tried to incorporate front porches into all of the homes. And in addition to that, just a private, at a minimum, a private little courtyard space. Encourage people to live outside more so. So I said I wanted to get into some of the sustainability goals. And so every fall I go to the university and help the urban design class and present some ideas to them. And I'd like to tell them, I would like to think about why it is that we're doing what we're doing, why, where are design principles coming from. And so with this project, like most of them that I work on, the idea is to create a sustainable place. And this little Venn diagram, I guess, is just saying that, you have to incorporate all the elements, all the different layers of sustainability, social, economic, and environmental, in order to create a sustainable place. And also, our job as professionals is the protection of the public health, safety, and welfare. I think sometimes we forget about that when we're doing design work. And so this next slide is a colleague of mine said it's kind of harsh, and as I get older, I tend to agree with him. But I feel like over the last 70 years or so, when it comes to incorporating health, safety, and welfare into the built environment, I don't think we've done so well, and I think we can do a lot better. That's kind of the typical American built environment that you see, I think, on the left, and there's nothing really safe about that or affordable, even if we ask the civil engineers. And I definitely don't think there's anything healthy about that.
Certainly
So
doesn't enhance well-being either.
It does not, I don't think. So when we talk about public health, I think it's safe to say that our society is no longer healthy. The U.S. Center for Disease Control connects suburbs with sedentary lifestyles, obesity, and heart disease. Kids born this year will have a 1 in 3 chance of becoming obese. And you look at the graph up there, and now, I think that's 2010, but now we're approaching 40% obesity rates. While you look at Europe, Italy, and France, and they're at 10%, so we're 4 times the obesity rates that they are in Italy and France. I think a lot of that's definitely attributed to the built environment here versus there. American Lung Association, $1.6 billion per year in avoided public health costs from building walkable communities close to work and school. We take a look at public welfare. Is our built environment affordable? Center for Neighborhood Technologies, 2000 census showed Northwest Arkansas households spent more on transportation than they did on housing. Typical households spent 26% on housing and 29% on transportation. Is the way we are building and living environmentally sound or sustainable? People who live in compact, walkable neighborhoods have 1/3 the carbon footprint of those who do not.
I have a question.
Sure.
And I'm not questioning the...
No, that's fine.
I guess this is the big picture question. If somebody lived in a compact, walkable neighborhood, but they still work in Bentonville, I mean, you're still going to be driving all those miles and all that stuff. But I mean,
It's still, yeah, I mean, that's better than not living in one.
I guess that's what I'm wondering. But the assumption is there an assumption that you're going to work in that neighborhood or near the neighborhood, or is that not part of the...
Yeah, I think that is part of the reduction in the carbon footprint is working and going to school in that neighborhood.
Riding back to work or something.
Right,
or
not
other.
having to drive, because that's the
Okay.
big part of it. But even if you drive to work and you come home and you walk everywhere else, so that's better than...
Yeah. Okay.
So I find myself asking the question all the time. What if the office? What if school? The grocery store? What if it was just a 5-minute walk? Can we design this into the places that we're trying to create? The U.S. Center for Disease Control, again, the most common mode of travel to school was the family car, followed by the bus, and then only 14% of people walk to school anymore. Why do we not walk to school anymore? Distance is the main reason, and then also safety or traffic danger. So we think about the distance, and we think about suburban zoning. Conventional zoning and land use separate goods and services from residents. Low density spread things out so far that in most cases it's not feasible to walk anywhere. You look at safety. In 2010, 4,200 pedestrians killed in traffic crashes in the U.S. This averages 1 crash-related pedestrian death every 2 hours. Pedestrians are 1.5 times more likely than passenger vehicle occupants to be killed in a car crash on each trip. Pedestrians are 9 times more likely to die if hit by a car at 30 miles per hour as compared to at 20 miles per hour. And that's what that graph on the right shows you. But we're still required to design streets for at least 30 miles per hour, at least for now.
Not inside the development.
Hmm?
Inside the development.
Hopefully not. We're
It's
still
15 or something.
it's still yet to be. We're working to get those speeds down to 15 or 20 miles per hour.
I hate that.
What's that?
That's like when I look at houses and I'm thinking, oh, I live in this house or not. It's like if all you see is the garage door when you look at the house.
Right.
I hate it.
They're
My
called
entire
snout
neighborhood.
houses.
Yes.
And I think the problem is that most people just pull in the garage and they shut the door and then they never look at what's going on in the street until they open the garage door again. And so that's why the traditional house, you think about social sustainability and things like eyes on the street and how that creates a safer street, really, if people are watching it instead of turning their back on it. So, I think I slipped. Yeah, there we go. So, you guys maybe have heard of the ped shed. Basically, people will usually walk somewhere if it's within a quarter mile or a 5-minute walk. It's the base unit of measurement for a walkable neighborhood. Most of these dwellings are within a 5-minute walk of basic daily needs and services, and this requires a minimum density of 8 units per acre for it to function properly. So you guys are probably wondering, well, what does compact walkable neighborhoods and densities of 8 units per acre have to do with water quality? And I think that it might have a lot to do with water quality. And when you look at the projected population growth in Northwest Arkansas and the Beaver Lake watershed, if you look at this graph, Beaver Lake constructed in 1966. The population was just over 100,000 people. Now, or in 2006, we were 282,000. At this rate, we'll be at 1 million people by 2050. If you think about where we're going to put all these people, Fayetteville and Springdale's population is expected to double. Rogers, Bentonville, triple. To house this projected growth, 140,000 new housing starts are expected. So at lower densities, or 4 units per acre, 52 square miles of land will need to be developed to accommodate the 140,000 new houses. And you think about densities in Northwest Arkansas, assuming 2.5 people per unit, Springdale is the only municipal area in Northwest Arkansas that contains more than 1 dwelling unit per acre. Most new single-family housing developments rarely exceed 3 houses per acre. This is the Beaver Lake watershed. In the past, the majority of the urbanized area has been located just to the west of this watershed in the Illinois watershed. But according to the Beaver Lake Watershed Protection Strategy, planning projections show a quadrupling of existing municipal area in the coming decades in the Beaver Lake watershed. So 2001, in the watershed, it consisted of 2% low-density suburbs, but by 2055, we're projecting 18%, or 9 times what it is now. That's equivalent to 127,000 acres of forest and farmland. Future total annual sediment loading is estimated to increase by 21%. Land developed as low-density suburbs are projected to be responsible for 36,000 tons, or 74% of this increase. That's equivalent to dumping five dump truck loads of sediment into the lake every day. And the same you'll see with nitrogen and phosphorus. And so, at my presentation that I gave a couple months ago, asking the question, is encouraging compact and walkable development or higher densities better for water quality in Beaver Lake? And this study that was done by the EPA, protecting water resources with higher density development, the results of the study suggest that higher density development could better protect regional water quality because it consumes less land to accommodate the same number of homes. And when you think about low-density development, the density and impervious surface, they're not equivalent. On the left, you see 1 house on 1 acre, at least 35% impervious surface. On the right are 8 houses on 1 acre, likely 2 times the impervious surface, but 8 times the number of houses. The growth is still coming regardless of the density limits. So this is kind of taking the approach that we have 1 acre, and if we're thinking about stormwater quality, how best to develop this acre. And what it shows is that 8 houses on 1 acre generates 40,000 cubic feet, or twice the stormwater that 1 house on 1 acre will generate. So that's one way of thinking about it, but I don't know if it's the smartest way of thinking about it. Because if you look at, instead of looking at how best to develop 1 acre, you think about how best to develop 8 houses or 140,000 houses that we have coming our way. And 8 houses on 8 acres generates 150,000 cubic feet of stormwater per year, 4 times the volume that 8 houses on 1 acre would generate. So this is,
If I may, that assumes that the whole acre is disturbed in the process in red dirt. If most of the acreage is left untouched in the development process, and the house is limited to the higher end of the lot, then you'll have absorbent soil. You know, you don't have to build them where you red
You're
dirt
right.
the whole huge lot, and that's been our problem with the outlying subdivisions, is they clear the whole thing, they level it, and they scrape off the rich absorbent soil and replace it with red dirt, the whole
Right.
place, and grow the same monoculture.
and then put sod on
grass
top of it.
And what?
And then put sod on top
Sod
of it.
on top of it, yes.
Yeah, you're right, Aubrey. There are a lot of assumptions there, but I think a lot of times, I mean, that's the way we do it. We scrape it off and then we put sod on top of it. But this, and then they looked at it on a watershed level, and 1 house per acre consumes more land and creates nearly 4 times the stormwater runoff than if developed 8 houses per acre. 1 house per acre generates 2.5 times the impervious surface than 8 houses per acre. So anyway, if this graph's just saying, if we accommodated growth at least 8 units per acre instead of 1 unit per acre, this should drastically decrease the amount of land allocated to land development in 2055, which in turn would preserve vast quantities of farms and forests throughout the watershed and probably benefit water quality in the lake. Let's see, I'm going to skip through some of this stuff. This is just essentially showing how we could reduce the sediment load if we developed higher densities. And I needed a transition slide there, but I don't have one. This is so back to Willow Bend and the Willow Bend site analysis. The existing hydrology at Willow Bend drains approximately 50 developed acres to the north. The existing hydrology has been impacted significantly by upstream development. The Willow Bend tree inventory identified and located over 2,000 trees with a DBH of 3 inches or greater. So you look at, it said that this has been significantly impacted. This is kind of the drainage way that's draining the 50 acres through the site, and you see this is kind of the old stream right here. This is the old stream bed. And then what's happened is this is a ditch that's been dug and rerouted the stormwater basically from here, and it goes through this ditch now. And then kind of this area is just not in really very good shape. Seemingly, this is full of just gravel and stuff that's just settled out after the water leaves the channel shape from the ditch that's been dug up here. And once we get past that, then it kind of transitions into a stream that's in a little bit better condition. So this slide shows our response to the existing hydrology and the tree canopy. Plan responds to the hydrology by preserving the higher quality stream corridors, and the plan is to maintain the existing topography as much as possible to enable the incorporation of existing trees and vegetation in close proximity to the homes. So this isn't technically a floodplain by FEMA standards, but this is kind of just my depiction of the lower lying areas on on the site, this blue right through here, and the stream corridor, if you will. So we've tried to do our best to balance staying out of that stream corridor, preserving that stream corridor with the rest of the goals that we have. And we've also tried to maintain the existing topography throughout the site, so to keep as many existing trees and the existing vegetation as possible. This brown area here are areas where we're not able to keep the existing topography, and we're having to take the excavation from the streets and then find a place to put that on the site. So once the master plan was substantially completed, we then took a more detailed look for ways to create more permeable surfaces that would allow stormwater to infiltrate into the ground instead of running off via a pipe, integrating hydrology with the placemaking. The shallow marsh, which is up here, is planned to drain approximately 4 acres. Will provide opportunities to store and infiltrate stormwater into the ground. Because of the shallow marsh, a boardwalk was chosen in place of a street for approximately 10 homes that will articulate this space. Instead of a street, as just mentioned, the boardwalk is proposed to provide a pedestrian connection from the Pinwheel Square through the shallow marsh and then on to our central green area. Below the raised boardwalk is an infiltration trench that will drain the immediate area and allow stormwater more time to soak into the ground. So you can see the boardwalk right through there. Also, rain gardens. As the boardwalk terminates into the central green over here, it kind of splits to form a large space for a garden or a rain garden. So originally, this was kind of a community garden, but it may have to be turned into a rain garden, and some of this space as well may have to be turned into a rain garden as well.
Just because it's like lower lying?
Just because we're short on space, and we need space for a rain garden to meet the requirements of the LID manual.
Mm.
There may be other places we can do this, though. Up here.
Vegetable garden or rain garden?
I don't know. Maybe. Peter would probably know more about that than.
There may be some vegetables.
Who grow cranberries?
That doesn't sound very good.
It's Thanksgiving.
So let's see. A second boardwalk forms the south side of this green space over here, or what I'm calling a flowing park, which drains approximately 8 acres, all this blue area. During storm events, the flowing park will fill with about 18 inches of storm water in a big rain, providing storage and more opportunities to infiltrate the storm water into the ground. Also, we've talked about programming this space here, the cottage court green, with either an above ground or below ground cistern that will just collect water from the rooftops and store it for reuse.
That looks like a good place for a vegetable garden.
It could, yeah, you're right.
Good sun.
And then with our street cross section, we went with a more compact street cross section that eliminates the sodded green space between the sidewalk and the street. We did this in order to maximize the tree preservation and minimize land disturbance. So essentially our right-of-way requirements shrank from 50 down to 38 feet. This also allowed us to get this full block of connectivity in here, because obviously you can see that this property is fairly narrow, about 330 feet wide.
It just eliminates the part you have to mow, the little strip that's worthless. Is that kind of?
Right.
Right, yeah. I mean, and you could make it advantageous and turn that into rain garden space, but it's kind of, you have to weigh,
Yeah, no, I'm not against it. I'm just
yeah,
saying it's, a lot of times it's just wasted space.
sure.
So people have to mow.
Mhm. But that was a big debate, was should we use it as rain garden space, or are the preserving the existing trees more important? And,
On higher volume, higher speed streets, having that green space with trees in it does add a lot of value, particularly for, pedestrians walking down the sidewalk, giving them a buffer from the traffic. On a low speed street like this, it's not necessarily as necessary to have that buffer from a low speed,
right.
low traffic street.
If we can really get the cars to go 20 miles an hour, then.
Well, could you reduce the lane size to 9-foot lanes? I mean, 10-foot seems really generous in this neighborhood.
It's the fire code requirement that they require 20-foot clear. I mean, 8 would be pretty big, but that's what's driving it.
For the trucks.
If you really want to get creative, maybe somebody could convince the fire department, to utilize some of the sidewalk space for their 20-foot clear, and then we could shorten the lanes down to 9 feet.
Yeah, but you've got a fire, you really want that fire truck.
Yeah, you don't want a tree to be in the way or.
Yeah, it changes the whole game.
Oh, they can get there, Aubrey. Oh, they got plenty of room.
Jeez, see them all the time.
They don't bring the big trucks out here. They don't bring the big ladder trucks
I
out
hope
here.
they never do.
Do all the houses have access, like, to get a moving van or a delivery truck or?
They all have vehicular access. So this is a good slide to show it. So this is the permeable pavement. It's planned for the shared driveways and parking areas at Willow Bend, and it will drain about 1.5 acres. But that's these little areas in yellow, shared driveways, parking areas that are kind of tucked back behind. So these houses that face onto the marsh and the boardwalk, they have vehicular access back here or on this alley back here.
Is it not rated for heavy loads? I'm
If
just
you-
wondering, like,
yeah.
for streets and stuff versus just the driveways.
If you could, if you can keep the bigger vehicles off of this, then it's going to be less expensive. I think that for the permeable pavement, the city doesn't want to have to maintain that, and so they're really encouraging you to do it on a private drive or something like that.
How about sidewalks though? Is that feasible to use permeable?
Same thing.
Oh, they maintain it once
Right,
it's
yeah.
planted. Okay.
As far as the permeable pavement streets, they are louder with vehicle traffic on it. So think about them. Especially like in parking lots, you don't really want to use it where people are pushing grocery carts and stuff over. It's better to like put it where people are parking. Because for some reason it seems to be louder.
No, it's smooth. All right, a few more slides here. I'm getting close. I'm past my 30 minutes.
We just go from a trailer park to Bay Jones' house.
I don't know. You can't see that architecture in there. So the Willow Bend landscape, and an attempt will be made to drop the homes into the existing landscape. Most of the homes are planned to be located on ground that has not been filled or graded. We already talked a little bit about that earlier. Utilizing piered foundations with crawl space. So we really are hoping we can just drop those houses right in between the trees and not do any grading at all. So just real quickly go through some of this, but this is from the LID manual. And we're talking about the runoff reduction method here. For any 1-inch rainfall event that's 24 hours or less, the volumetric runoff from the site shall not exceed 20%. So the remaining 80% shall be captured and treated on site through a combination of infiltration, evapotranspiration, harvest, or reuse. This is essentially a calculation of ground cover runoff coefficients. So we're a soil type C, undisturbed forest cover, and this is saying that 4% of what falls on the ground will run off. If it's a disturbed soil, then we're saying 20% will run off. If it's a pavement, if it's asphalt or concrete, then we're saying 95% will run off. And so, like we said, the goal is to not to exceed 20% runoff. And if after doing our site planning, then we have more than 20%, then the LID manual encourages us to use these structural BMPs like rain gardens, permeable pavement, things that I've kind of already just went through, to reduce that runoff volume back to the 20%. So what I thought I would do, I'll probably do this in 3 or 4 minutes, is just this is kind of so the site as it exists is assumed to have 4% runoff coefficient, or 4% of the storm water will leave the site. We add the streets, that bumps it up to 23%. We add the rooftops, that bumps it up to 42%. We add the sidewalks and anything else that's not natural, the disturbed soils that I'm assuming that I'm kind of being conservative and assuming that the soils around the homes will be disturbed, so we do that 20% runoff volume for that area. But anyway, that bumps it up to 49%. And then this is how we started to reduce that back down with the rain garden. 3 acres drained into a rain garden brought it back from 49 down to 39% runoff volume. The permeable pavement dropped it down to 36%. The infiltration trench down to 35%. The cistern brought it down to 33%, and then that's where we kind of bottomed out, and we didn't quite get to the 20%. The shallow marsh and the flowing park are both proposed to double in use as tree preservation and stormwater detention. The actual ground will be undisturbed. Small dams will briefly detain the stormwater in these areas. But technically, neither of these meet the specifications set forth for the extended detention BMP, which would reduce this 33% runoff volume even further. We still have some more work to do to see if we can meet this extended detention BMP. I'm not sure that we can.
So that's not necessarily a requirement, but it's a best practice, or is it supposed to be required? Or?
I don't think it's required right now, but it's not required, but encouraged.
Well, all of this is voluntary, right? I mean, LID, I mean, you're just trying to meet what is defined as LID.
Right.
I mean, you do have certain stormwater retention requirements, but then this is another way to get to it.
Well, that's completely separate. So we have the other detention requirements that we are, by code, required to meet. And then for now, anyway, the LID is just encouraged, the way I understand it.
Okay. I was thinking that the LID was one way to get to the...
It offers an alternative optional path to, and any volumetric reduction that you can show through LID will basically subtract from that traditional stormwater detention volume that you would have had to build under the old model and under the current other alternative model.
So do you have traditional stormwater retention also? Or
Yeah, that's kind of what the shallow marsh is
okay.
is providing in this
So
flowing
that's still
park right
figured
here.
into the 33%? Is that still to get you to 33?
Well, see, it's separate. So really the LID and this runoff reduction method, and we're trying to get to 20% runoff. That's for a 1-inch storm, which is kind of a lighter storm. And then the detention, the stormwater detention, that's for the big stuff.
Okay.
So it's kind of separate things.
So it's going to overwhelm all the LID stuff.
Right.
You're still going to deal with it.
Right.
But the idea with the LID is that, yeah, 1-inch storm is lighter, but it's more frequent. And so if you can treat, from a quality perspective, your more frequent storms, then you're going to have a greater overall impact on, your downstream receiving water.
Yeah.
Even though the big storm is going to inundate it every couple of years, whenever it hits, the majority of your storms will be captured.
And apparently all the pollutants are in that 1-inch.
That's first flush kind of thing, yeah.
Yeah.
The majority of them. I
Well,
don't
if
know
it
about all
runs
of them.
through your house, it's downstream from there. You won't care whether it's polluted or just a little dingy.
So this is the last slide, and I guess what we 18 months ago we finished the design development stage, and we hadn't been working on it since then. But right now we're looking at 5.5 acres of the site drained to the structural BMPs that I talked about. We're looking at a cost right now of about $147,000. So it's like maybe 7 or 8% of the total site improvement cost. And this reduced the runoff volume from 49 down to 33. We're still a little bit short of the 20% that we're trying to get to.
Now, you did say the common area, you were treating it like a cistern where it's gonna collect it, so that's part of your LID. How much volume does that thing hold? It's still not enough to make a big dent?
Well, it did a little. It helped us out. I think it got us 2 or 3%. Yeah, I don't know what the volume is.
No, it's all
I can't
right.
remember.
Yeah, that's
One of the things I guess I would, I guess the reasons I put together the higher density stormwater quality in Beaver Lake slides was, I think the LID could potentially have some unintended consequences of when you can't get down to your 20%, then a lot of people's reaction is going to be, well, we need more undisturbed green space, and that will get you down to the 20%. But at the same time, it's going to encourage people, I think, to develop at lower densities, which is going to have a impact in the big picture. So it's always difficult to find to balance all this stuff out into the right equation.
So we don't know the answer to this, but one question might be to have a different target for higher density developments than for low density developments. Maybe to encourage higher density, maybe you don't need to hit 20. If you hit 33, some magic number, but I mean, there might be, with some study, might be an argument that that's better.
Definitely.
With the high density to hit, say 33 or some other number, as opposed to hitting 20 and taking up 4 times the acreage.
Right.
Yeah, there's also, if you remember, Brian, some of the money that's committed from various sources included the requirement of the LID at the very beginning, after the property was bought, so the first money source. Also, but in these figures, that land has a lot less runoff than the engineering book may say. We've had that in our neighborhood, very many parts of town. When a green, flat prairie area is developed, it's an enormous change in the amount of runoff. Because if you go to one of those places and look all around, there are no major streams running off of any of them. They're holding a lot of water, settles in. My backyard's a wonderful example. It's this deep in a couple hours of hard rain, and a couple of hours later, it appears only down because it's soaking in and it's not running off. So the potential for just protecting soil and possibly building a berm, small dam to capture it temporarily will achieve a lot of those but there's always they say only the engineers will figure without seeing the land, without testing the land, without testing the soil, will make those calculations, and it's happened many places. And then, of course, when it's denuded, you've got a lot of runoff and a lot of silt goes down the street.
Yeah, that's why we tried to. Well, we talked about putting the houses on piers, and then I showed you the slide that really, I think we've done a good job of minimizing the amount of fill or grading that we're doing to the site, and a lot of it. Obviously, we had to go in and dig 3 foot down to put the streets in. It's not my requirement. And then we had to figure out what to do with all that soil.
If it's Black Ridge soil, sell it to a farmer.
Do what?
Put it up for sale to farmers. If
Yeah,
it's
or we could use it in our
Right.
rain gardens.
Yeah, use it.
Yeah.
Did any of this include, you mentioned the rain catchment in the common area, but any kind of rain catchment for individual houses? I noticed you had metal roofs on most of them. Should lend itself. Can you count that?
Well, that's another thing that we could look at a little bit further, because I think what I was, I was saying this green area, which is essentially the lot that the house is going to sit on, that would be disturbed. Like I said, I was trying to be conservative about it when the idea is really for it not to be disturbed. But then it becomes one of those regulatory things that
Splitting hairs about.
the engineering department says, well, how do we know that you're not going to disturb this lot? Like, well, I don't know that
Well,
I can prove that to you. But, so that might help.
Yeah, if
To-
you only had to count the houses,
What's that?
if you only had to count the houses,
It's
Not
disturbed.
you didn't have to count the, yeah. the land around
Yeah,
it.
but when you think about how much site is disturbed during construction, even
Yeah,
Even
that's
with,
normal
you know,
construction.
best practices, it's still really difficult to not disturb at least,
Mhm.
a minimal radius around the house.
But we would encourage storage devices at the homes, but you can't, I don't think, for that particular calculation, you can't include that.
Because you can't guarantee that every
You
house
can't
would.
guarantee that it's going to function every day.
Something I've seen on, I don't remember which shows that I've seen on TV, but where they took a home with a big front porch, and they put a big cistern under the porch, so you don't ever see it. It's the porch is over it, and now I think probably you'd end up having to pump the water out to utilize the water as opposed to gravity. But I guess I don't know what I'm asking, but if every house had a permanently installed cistern as opposed to a rain barrel under a gutter, I guess I'm not sure how easy it is to use or what you do with it, other than landscape irrigation, that kind of thing. But I don't know, I guess it's just something I want to throw out there. I wonder if that's anything that we consider, because every house potentially could catch, substantial amount, several thousand gallons anyway. It doesn't take much, inch of rain on a thousand
Use
square
it for
foot
your
house,
toilets.
Well, I mean, that is conceivable.
There's the expert right there.
Yeah, I don't know what code issues there are, like, if you run out of cistern water, how does it flip over to the city water, if you run low and you can't flush your toilets anymore, is there some way to automate that, or is it somebody have to go turn a valve, or? But those are things that I think are in the future. I just don't know if we're ready for it or not, but, I'm fascinated by that.
I think if you could do the LED privately on the private lots, but the way it's set up now, it's all where everybody's worried about, is this going to be maintained?
Right.
But if you can figure out a way to do it privately, then yeah, it would definitely help the calculations.
Yeah, keep in mind the LID The new drainage criteria manual with LID in it is just adopted. What is it, 2 months old now, Sarah?
Yeah.
You know, if that, and we haven't even seen our first project come through with it, and really we're in the, you know, it's out there. We want to evaluate for, you know, probably at least a year or maybe longer, how well is it operating? You know, are there areas where we're too conservative, or we're not conservative enough, and make changes to it where it's not working, and expand areas that are working really, really well. And so I think some of it is kind of a hesitation to go too terribly far with it on the first go-round, because there's some of these things that are unknown, and there aren't, you know, a tremendous amount of, there's not tremendously wide adoption of LID as part of drainage criteria manuals across the country either, so it's not mainstream at this point either.
Well, speaking of things that aren't mainstream, one other thing that I wondered about before, when you have a house that's built on piers with a crawl space, I know traditionally, you know, it's a fairly sealed environment, you know, and but I wonder if you constructed the house in the right way, if you couldn't allow the water to run through there on purpose, and then you have the extra 1,000 square feet for permeability or whatever, the soil below the house.
Mm-hmm.
So like, you know, traditionally, oh, you got to keep your crawl space dry, you know, but if you constructed the house properly, you could have a creek under your house if you wanted to. I mean, so I just wonder if that's something in the future to look into.
The modern architects would like it. They would love that.
Yeah, I mean, you know, why are we, you know, and we just have this culture of, well, you got to keep your crawl space dry, but if you built the house right, you wouldn't have to, and you'd have that much more ground to soak up water. So.
Yeah, as an owner of a home on a crawl space, I know that one of our issues is the moisture coming up from the soil
Right.
through the floors.
But again, that's based on traditional construction.
Right.
You know.
So what we really need is
Ventilation.
foam, spray foam insulation
Yeah,
on the
something like
on the
that.
bottom of the floor, right?
Yeah.
Has an insulating barrier and a moisture barrier.
Yeah.
But and then theoretically, what you're talking about might be possible.
Yeah.
What's the architect lives near Wilson Park and has a stream running under his house?
Marlin?
Marlin.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah, I have a stream running under my house, but I'll.
Most of these, we were planning on the high side that we'd have to put something, you know, that's the size of, it's a little ditch that's the size of this keyboard that would just take the sheet flow around the high side of the house, but we haven't thought about setting it up to where the water would.
That might be a
under
whole
the
nother,
house.
you know, study, you know, somebody would have to go out and do before it would ever be adopted.
But either way, I think if you can convince people to build on piers and with the crawl space, that you, I don't know, that might be the key to getting away from the builders coming in and hauling in red dirt and building it up 2 feet and grading all over the lot and then pouring a concrete slab on top of that. It's a very high impact way of building, it seems like.
And doing hand work, it hasn't been many years. In my lifetime, everybody climbed the ladder to build a house, you know, and now you have a big machine comes in and puts up a big lift, and everybody works off that. So not every worker is actually trained to do it a low impact way.
Yeah. They gotta drive the skid steer around, completely around the house.
All right. Well, that was a great presentation. Thank you, Brian. Did we have any further questions or comments? Okay.
Okay, got one other
Yeah, thanks.
announcement related to boards and committee vacancies. There's 2 board and committee vacancies associated with thank you, Greg, Environmental Action Committee, Angela Weissley and Dana Smith. Both of their terms are up, and they both indicated they will not be reapplying for their positions. So they'll be both with us at least one more meeting, and then we can give them a proper send-off. But that does leave us with 2 vacancies on the Environmental Action Committee, and applications for those position vacancies are due by 5 o'clock on Wednesday in the city clerk's office.
This week.
This week, Wednesday, so day after tomorrow. So if you know anyone who would be interested, please spread the word. I believe I sent out the link announcement to that to everyone, but if you need another copy of it, feel free to let me know and I can forward that to you.
And traditionally, isn't it their responsibility to recruit qualified people?
Or else they have to stay in.
And made the recommendation to multiple people.
Spread the word.
Do they only fill vacancies once a year? Or how often are they?
Every quarter, board and committee vacancies are filled.
Okay, so if we
And
miss
so-
this window, we'll have another shot to find
Yeah,
some
and-
candidates?
and, you know, you all have, your terms are staggered variously throughout the 2-year period, essentially, to where not everybody's position term is up at
Yeah.
the same time.
So worst case scenario, one of the positions could be filled to complete that term and keep the stagger going or something. So it's not like we're gonna miss this for a whole year. or
Right,
something.
yeah.
All right, well, hopefully for next time I'll have an update on the National League of Cities Conference. I did get a chance to tour a low-income housing development very similar to Willow Bend with a lot of the same water challenges. That was a former landfill site, and they've done a net zero low-income housing development, and as well as have managed to salvage a lot of older homes that have been displaced by downtown high-rise development. They're moving them out to the site, weatherizing them, and selling them to people, and 80% of the average, what is it, medium
Area,
family.
medium income
Yeah.
family.
That's incredible.
Mhm.
Where is
So-
this being done?
This was in East Austin.
Oh,
And so I think that'll be relevant to this. I also got to tour their 35 megawatt solar municipal energy utility, and they have another 150 megawatts under construction with the goal of meeting 20% of their energy needs with renewable energy, I believe, next
Oh my
year.
gosh, that's fantastic.
So lots of good stuff. I even saw an electric bus. So
Was it in Austin?
it was in Austin, yeah.
Okay.
Lots of good stuff. All right,
When
well,
is-
thank you.
When
Oh.
is Willow Bend?
What's the
Gonna be-
timeline?
Yeah.
Timeline?
As I understand from my most recent conversations with the developer and with Partners for Better Housing, they're in the process of still putting together the financing package for the project, lining up some private investment to get the, what Brian showed you was all preliminary design, and they still have to fund final design and construction drawings for the project. And so they're putting together that financing package and hoping to have that in the very near future.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and the city has committed $1 million in infrastructure to the Willow Bend project, $500,000 this year, and then $500,000 next year. And there has been some talk amongst some members on the city council about reducing that amount. So if this is something you would like to see happen, which is certainly something I would like to see happen, I would encourage you to pay attention to those discussions and weigh in as you feel is appropriate.
It's actually 500,000 in 2015 and 500,000 in 2016.
Yeah, sorry. I'm already ahead of myself on the budget years.
Mhm.
But we'll definitely it would be good to hear some advocacy and recommendations from this group. Okay, so thank you for your time tonight,
Thank
and we
you.
are adjourned.